This
Well, it's
conference
just
will
the
now
three
be
of us so
recorded.
far again.
That's okay. That's okay. So this is Craig. This is Just Genealogy. This is live stream. Welcome everybody. Hopefully more people will show up. So Daphne, I looked at your Associate Professional Genealogist profile.
Mm-hmm.
And all you're doing, from what I saw, was saying the same thing 3 times.
Okay, I'll look at it some more.
Yeah. So you only have to say that once.
Okay.
In the
I just
paragraph
wasn't quite
part.
sure what popped up where, because
Yeah.
since there were different
So
categories.
take the stuff out from below your picture
Mm-hmm.
of all that, because you've already got it there. I would add the DAR to the places that you research.
Okay.
I would add the Library of Congress to the places that you research. And then the Franklin Marshall College, you want to add 2. And we have to figure out how we can set up convince a whole bunch of people to be interested in Hessians all at once, so we can get 5 or 6 people that want you to go to Franklin Marshall College to pull those Hessian files. But that
Okay.
nobody goes to Franklin Marshall that I know about.
Okay.
It might be worth it just to go up there and have a little look-see and find out if it's something you actually want to do before you do
Okay.
it. Tie it into your need for shoe fly pie and really good birch beer. So I guess.
Wish I had a Hessian, but I don't.
Well, I meant to talk to somebody about their Hessian today and I forgot. So
Okay.
let's go live. And oh shoot. Wait, is it down there? Yeah, it is. So the title will be Go To. I'm trying to think of other places in the area that you could also add to your list. Other repositories that nobody else thinks about. And nothing is jumping out at me except the individual counties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's on my list to look into.
Yeah, so I mean, you're definitely going to want to do Frederick, you want to do Carroll, you're going to want to do Montgomery, you definitely want to do Loudoun.
Fairfax?
I'm sorry, what?
Fairfax, maybe.
And Fairfax. Of course you would bring up Fairfax.
Well, I do have people there.
Yes, I know. Every time I see a Bayless now, I question who it is. Okay, so now I'm live on the live stream, and now we're live on the GoToMeeting, so we're good to go. So do you have anything for me, Daphne, that you want to know?
Well, I was just wondering, because I attended the APG organization webinar last night. That was it Kelly? Yeah. Kelly Bergheimer did on organizing your genealogical education and news alerts, but she also talked about some of the tools. Do you have specific tools, like OneNote or do you prefer spreadsheets or when you're
I,
researching?
for my database collection, I use FileMaker, but it's expensive and the company's been paying for it for 20 years. So I don't like Excel spreadsheets.
Okay.
I've never been comfortable with Evernote. I've never been comfortable with Scrivener. I need to get comfortable with Scrivener. I'm very comfortable with Hemingway
Mhm.
for making sure that my writing is better than it would be otherwise. I just submitted an article that I was late submitting today and didn't run it through Hemingway before I sent it. I'll probably pay for that in the long run. But so let me send Thomas the right to the right place. Let's see. Thomas, go to the go to meeting link that's in the description, and then you'll be joining everybody else. So I don't really, my problem or my issue is I'm kind of beyond all that stuff because everybody already knows who I am. So I don't have to worry about that because 30 years, 35 years has already given me what any of the tools could give me, probably just in the word of mouth value, I guess might be the better way to put it.
Okay.
But I'm sure there are tools that exist out there that would work, but you're going to have to get yourself a website eventually. You're going to have to update your APG thingamajig, and eventually you're probably on your website going to have some sort of blog that talks about what you do. I mean, once people find out about you in the DC area, you shouldn't have any problem finding work.
Okay.
I mean, I never did when I was there. You know, I had work every week. It may not have been as much as I wanted, but it was early in what I was doing. Like one of the things I did was I wrote this book, The Lost Pension Settled Accounts of 6 April 1838, and then I would get 10, 20 requests for records at a time, kind of thing. Some people would send for 6 records at a time, and I'd have 5 or 6 people that wanted them. So I mean, I was able to some days the entire day was doing nothing but that. So creating some sort of finding aid that works. Talking about Franklin Marshall, you probably ought to download the Franklin Marshall thing off the website.
I've got a bookmark at the moment.
Okay, because there is that finding aid there. Because that way you'll know before you even go whether there even is a folder or not for those Hessians. Dot, you're muted.
I finally found the right link.
Okay. Well, it's the same link as always.
Don't change it, please.
No, I'm not going to change it. I use this link for everything.
Did
you? I wanted to ask. Did you talk to anybody about the bunny today?
Yes.
Okay.
Have you got the DNA yet?
Pardon?
See how troublesome this is, text and speaking?
I'm sorry, are you talking
Get it
to me?
moved over.
Is that you, Thomas?
You heard your bell get notify you or something, and that's why you showed up, or did you just plan to show up?
These people know to show up
I still
because
haven't
they've been
figured-
doing it. I don't know who's talking to us. It's interesting. Anyway, yeah, it's been a rough day at the Scott household.
Hello, Shelley.
They're only
At 5 o'clock, we're going to move into a go to meeting.
That's me.
The link is here somewhere. I'll do it again at 5 so we can see each other and actually talk to each other rather than this.
Sounds like a recording's running.
Because it's,
That's from
Yeah.
a couple of months ago.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna DC this. But that
You're
sounds
being
like it's on.
haunted by yourself.
It sounds like it's on our end, doesn't it? Not on.
far away from my microphone. How's that? Is that better?
That's really weird. Let's see if I can get rid of this by getting rid of the line stream that's already there.
Okay. No problem. So, Lorraine, you just who this guy is and where he fits into the family?
Huh?
When you went to get on, did you go to an existing video? If so, you need to pause the video.
No.
There's no video.
No, I meant if Dot did on her computer,
I'm trying
because
to
hers is the one showing up with the white around the box when it happened.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so,
Hmm.
so I was at the wrong place, so how do I get back to the right place?
You're in the right place somehow, but you're.
If you click
it
on the
looks like you've
tab
got-
with the YouTube, just make sure that the video that's there is paused.
I'm not seeing, I've lost everything now. I lost the picture.
Sounds hiccupy. That's interesting. Oh, wait. Maybe it's my air conditioner.
All right. So turn your microphone off and see if it disappears. Just hit the space bar. No, I guess that doesn't work. Well, maybe it did. Because I don't hear the voice anymore. If it's not one thing, it's another. So where were we? We weren't anywhere, were we? So do you have anything, Catherine?
Not really, other than what I said at the very beginning before anybody got here, that about the Presbyterians.
Yeah, that's yeah, I think that's I don't think I realized it at the time, but that's volume 2 of the religious bodies 1936 stuff. Because it
I'll
looks
keep,
like it goes from K to Z.
okay, I'll keep looking.
And I think you can get to that through Haiti Trust.
I'll try that. Not through census.gov.
You can probably get to it through census.gov, but I didn't see it there.
I didn't see it there either. I went through all of them and down the whole list and didn't find it. And that
Well,
old way of just having a number and a .pdf, that's not the best way to organize
Right.
things. But
You're right. So I think if you just go to Haiti Trust and type in religious bodies 1936, it'll show up. I
great.
think three different things show up when you do that.
Okay.
Hello.
That should be
Oh,
easier.
wait, Catherine, maybe it's archives.gov.
Oh, instead of Haiti Trust? Okay.
Yeah, it's
I'll
it's
try
one of
both
those
of
two.
them, see whatever.
Yeah, it's
Test,
in one of those kind of sites.
test,
Okay,
test,
great. Thank you.
test.
We can hear you, Thomas.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was
Okay.
seeing if my microphone was working. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Dot, do you have anything?
Not right now. Nothing but the hurricane.
Oh,
So, what do you think about my situation, Craig?
I think that you keep inundating me with so much material that I can't keep up.
I can't keep up either.
Well, that's, I you'll notice as in the last month, I've been answering specific questions and not answering a whole bunch of stuff. It's
Yeah.
because honestly, it's because I don't care.
That's funny.
In that I'm not your personal researcher. or your
No,
personal advisor,
I
you
understand.
need to put stuff. You actually, I used to be like you, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way at all,
Uh,
nor do I intend to appear to be derogatory as I preface it with saying I'm not being derogatory. But I used to be a surname researcher where I would hit something and I would collect every Scott I could find. And I didn't
Stomp.
care how they connected. Eventually, I got to the point where I worked on getting them all connected, but I just collected stuff and I collected stuff and I have probably 40 boxes of stuff of Scott surname genealogy stuff that I collected over the years, but I eventually put them all together. You have more hypotheses than you can deal with.
It's definitely a problem.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is you create the best thing you can do. The best thing you can do is create a research question, develop a research plan to answer that question, and then go and answer it. And you probably already have all the information you need to answer it.
I probably do. I probably just don't know where it's at or what I'm looking at.
Exactly. Because your approach is disorganized. You lack a research plan because you lack a research question. It's not that you lack a research question, it's that you have so many research questions.
Right.
Okay? And that's bottom line what the issue is because you have so many research questions and you have 4 hypotheses for each one of them and you have 1,000 records already with chicken scratch all over them, you have no concept of where you are. And by the way, you're not alone in that methodology. I mean, it's just that it's not an effective or efficient way to research because research without a research question isn't research. It's just collecting records.
And you don't know when you've gotten the answer.
Because you don't know what the
Yeah.
question is.
Okay, with there was the 1787 Virginia tax list. I the the fact that Henry C. Stover came in, and that was the only other Christian Stover that was taxed in the state during that year. It's like every piece of evidence I've been finding has more is making this theory more fall together rather than fall apart. Most of the time, when I come up with one of my hypotheses or whatever you might want to call it, they tend to fall apart pretty quick because I say this can't be true because this happened and this happened and this happened, and it just doesn't make sense. But with this one, everything seems to be falling together.
So,
I just,
so you have to create the research question
yep. I think
and
my
find out
question is,
what the data you have, how what you have answers that question. And then once you answer that question and create the proof or the proof summary, depending on how much data we're talking about, then you can build on the answer to that question.
and then
But
sometimes I try to take the approach, let's come from back to forward instead of
no,
forward to
you
back.
always,
Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
when you build a house, you don't start with the roof.
The roof. Okay.
Okay, you always want to build on what you know. And the problem is that you have so many pieces of data wandering through your brain at various speeds that you don't know what you know. And that's problematic because you always, in research, you always have to divide things into, I don't know about this and I know about this. Because you build on what you know, because eventually as you build on what you know, the things you don't know about, you can integrate in and all of a sudden they become known. But I mean,
It'll fall together.
remember that movie Helter Skelter? I have no idea what was in that movie Helter Skelter, but I do remember that the title of the movie is perfect because that's how you read. You're a Helter Skelter researcher. You're a wild man. I mean, No, from the perspective of you generate more records than in a given hour than any person I know. But the point is, it doesn't do you any good.
A lot of them are the ones that I do find that I think are applicable. I do apply to my actual tree on Ancestry. Most of them I just
Okay,
throw aside,
okay.
like you say, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
okay, but research is not building a tree on Ancestry.
mhm.
Research is answering research questions.
Okay, my research question right now is who is the wife of Christian Stover? And I have an idea of who it is, but I can't
Okay,
prove it.
but that's not a good research question
It's not.
because there are
What
too many Christian Stovers.
there are?
Well, how many Christian
Well,
Stovers do you know?
yeah.
How many Christian Stovers do you know about? All it takes is one more than one for it to be
Yeah.
a bad research question.
And all it takes is that one death certificate, place of birth of father to be wrong, and
Look,
everything's, you know,
one record, a genealogy does not make.
yep, it's a
Okay,
culmination.
it's the analysis and correlation of multiple records that create answers to research questions, not a single record. Never does a single record solve the
Ever.
problem because you've got to correlate it with other records in order for it to work.
Yes.
It's a plausibility situation. In other words, one record can provide you with the correct information, but one record does not generate the proof
Mm.
because you have no way to know whether that information is in fact true or not.
Okay, I think then a better research question for my situation right now is where did this person, okay, let's not even say the name Christians. Where did this person come from
You have
before?
to, you have, I'm going to have to do videos on how to construct a research question. You have to
Yep.
have a person, a place, and a time,
Okay.
and then the question. In other words,
Okay.
who was the wife of Christian Stover who lived in Hardee County, West Virginia and is found on the 1787 tax list?
Yep. In Shenandoah.
Who was his wife?
Yes.
Okay, because that makes, given that there are no other Christian Stovers in Hardee County, but I think there's a C. Henry Stover and a Christian Stover.
I am thinking that's the same person, but I went through the
They're
minute
not going to
books
be
of
on the tax list. They're not going to be on the tax list twice in the same county.
yeah, I went through the minute books of Shenandoah pretty much line by line, and I found nothing. There's the wealthy family that has a Christian Stover there, but I found nothing that I thought related to them. They were only there for 3 years if it's the same people. I think it is the same people, but let's say
Well,
80.
the
I
issue
think
becomes that your focus of your research question is actually not on Christian Stover, but on his wife.
yes.
And what do you know about his wife before? I mean, other than the fact that there is this woman who is his wife.
I can make a 60-70% assumption that she lived into her 80s. She didn't make it to the time of named censuses. Is that for sure her on the census? I don't know. But
Well,
I can.
wait. You mean in 1830, 1840? So you could round your question out a little bit more and say, who is the wife of Christian Stover who's found in Hardee County in 1797 and is on the 1810 census of Virginia as a woman of blank to blank years?
Correct.
Okay, so you can do that, but I wouldn't do that because of the time between 1787 and 1810. Okay, I would say, who's the Christian Stover found in Hardee County in 18, I don't know what county Christian Stover was in 1810, but who was the Christian Stover in 1810 on the 1810 census in Hardy County, and who is the wife identified? Who is the female identified as being X to X years in that
The,
census?
there's only been one new character that I just found in an old court document from 1801, and it's a Catherine Stover that testified against in a court case. And I'm assuming that's the wife, but you know what they say about assuming.
Yeah, I do. Well, then what you could do is change your research question so you're focused on who that Catherine Stover is.
Yep. I just
See,
can't
I mean,
find
the
anything.
point is, notice how the question changes your focus. And you
Yep.
want to make sure that your question allows you to focus appropriately. The bottom line issue for you is you need to deal with one question at a time instead of 40.
40. I could agree with that.
Because you're making progress in filling up the bin with a lot of records, but you're not making progress on creating your family. So
Yeah,
I would do, well, I think the first thing I would do is I would take all the records that you've got at this point, and I would sit down with them on my dining room table, and I would sort them by person. I would do the peso dance.
mhm.
And you've heard me talk about the peso dance before.
Yes.
Find the unique individuals among all those people that you have now and assign those records to those individual people. Here's
Yep.
what the problem is. When you misassign, you create a rabbit hole. In other words, you need to be confident that this person is in this record is the same person that is in that record.
And
So
that
you
is very challenging.
Well, but that's what genealogy is all about.
Yes. It's fun. It's a lot of
Okay.
fun.
This is see, remember my mantra for this entire YouTube channel is converting people doing genealogy into genealogists. You do really good genealogy, but you suck as a genealogist. I mean, I don't mean, I mean that with humor, okay? But I mean, the point is this is what people doing genealogy do. They just collect records and they have a head full of stuff, but they
Well, I
don't.
understand that most of those records are not applicable to my family, but it's been a journey of
Sure.
I've been trialing and erroring, and I'm finally getting somewhere where I think I'm really headed in the right direction now. Finally.
Sure.
I
Sure.
this is all no one's ever, I don't think anyone's ever known these people existed within the last 100 years. They're not in any books. They were poor. I don't know that was his father that disowned him out of the will. I don't know, was he handicapped? I don't know what the situation was, but I know he was dirt poor, never
Have
had
you
land.
ever heard of Occam's razor?
No, I have not.
I would ask you to research Occam's razor, because here's a problem that people doing genealogy have. They always look for the most complex answer to the simplest question.
Sounds like me.
I mean, it's like the assumption that a woman living on the frontier without a husband with children must have been a madame and run a whorehouse. Because how else could she survive? Okay, and that's ridiculous. I mean, the bottom line is usually, not all the time, but in the absence of other evidence, usually the simplest solution is the right solution. Because our ancestors were no more complex than we are. And poor people create records. You've got a whole suitcase full of records.
And they all are applicable to the Hardy County Stovers. most of the records that I do have, but I just run into this brick wall once they show up on the tax list. Now, considering it is the same Christian Stover in Shenandoah back to 1787, it's still a brick wall there. I went to get the specific taxes, but my PayPal was acting funny, so I have to get back in there and do that and start going through those. But I was thinking, if Christian or the father's off fighting the war, would the wife stay back and be taxed, or how would that work?
He would be taxed even though he wasn't there. Going off and fighting a war doesn't make you necessarily levy free. It depends on what the law is. In other words, it varies by year, by war, by state. In fact, I've done a talk on levy free that's going to drop, I think, tomorrow. Because somebody asked me what levy, I may have been you, but somebody asked me what levy free meant.
I have not heard that term before.
Yeah. So anyway, so that levy free just means somebody wouldn't be paying taxes. So if he was levy free, it would say so in the tax list because they would account for him.
Okay,
So I don't believe that if he was off fighting the war, that he would be able to avoid the taxes. If that was the case, the counties would be destitute because they would have no way to generate money.
That makes sense. I mean, at this point, I'm picturing them living in a shack behind someone's house, poor, just being farmhands to one of these families,
Well, and all of that is possible, but if they show up on the tax list and are paying taxes, they had to have something.
Yeah, it's not there. He has a horse maybe once or twice. He usually just claims himself. From 1795 to 1809. 1809, he disappears, and another guy's trying to connect the dots there. But it's a mess. I agree, and I need to.
Yeah, the levy-free discussion is Friday.
I want to find the marriage record of Christian Stover and who, but it's just a challenge. I think my next step is to get that specific tax and go through it.
Well,
and my research question right now is, who is the wife and where and how did she get there? And
too much in that question.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, you want to craft a question that's very specific, because once you prove that, the answer to that question, then you can build on it. Whereas if there are too many facets to your question, you never get it answered and you can't build on it. So take those pieces one by one.
Yep.
And I think if they're only in Hardy for 3 years, and when are their children born?
No, they're in Hardy, Christians in Hardy for 14 years. Shenandoah, they're in for 4 years before Hardy. I think it's them. I would say 80% likely.
So have you looked at a Shenandoah marriage book?
I scoured everything I could find. I've actually been there in the archives researching when I thought, originally it was said that we came from the Peter Stover family, the wealthy family that founded Strasburg, Virginia. But I disproved that with the records, because there was a Christian Stover hiding that was poor, and the other Jake. I don't want to. I could get into talking about this for 45 minutes and put everyone to sleep, but
Shelley, we can hear you chewing.
Sorry.
No, I'm just trying to figure out the next step. And
then the next step is to learn how to craft a research question.
Yeah.
And then once you've answered that question, knowing what the next question to ask is in such a way that you can constantly build on what you're doing.
And
Recognize that if you find this woman, you're not researching Stovers anymore. You're researching her family.
yeah,
And you haven't really researched you really haven't
the
proved
net.
that much about the Stovers at this point, except where they were for 4 years and where they were for 14 years.
Um, yeah, I could.
And who some, but not all of their children were.
So, some of it's very. I mean, I've scoured the record books and I take the data and whatever data I get, I try to make sense out of it. I try to culminate everything, like you say. And
But see, the problem is it's in the absence of a research question.
yeah,
So when you look at these records, you honestly don't know what you're looking for because you don't have a question. It's
I would say
hard.
right now is where did Christian? I no, the wife. I have one record that if that this could be a daughter. I don't know, but
Right. You have a record currently that doesn't mean anything,
Catherine
right?
Stover, yeah, it could be any. I know that it's associated with him, and I know that all these people did associate together, so it likely is the same Christian Stover. But is the wife the correct? Is that his wife? I think it's his wife. The census records make me think it's his wife.
Why? Is there
Um,
something in the court document that says how old she is?
no, but it's the fact that on the 1820 and 1830 census, there's this old woman that isn't explained from she like to be as old as she is, she would pretty much have to be. Well, nothing's have to be. Could be an aunt, but there's not. We don't have
Well,
many
no.
Stovers in Hardy County, too.
Okay, but this woman could not be a Stover at all. She could be the mother of the wife.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, the problem is
That is correct.
you're coming to conclusions uh, based on insufficient data.
Yeah, and finding the data is the hard part.
Um, but yeah, I'm just saying you're living in a world of confirmation bias. This is what you want it to be, and these records confirm that that's what you want it to be, not because of what's in the records, but because of what's inside your head.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
like,
and
am I delusional or is this
no,
really
no,
what
no,
it
no, no,
is?
no, you're not delusional. You're just not practiced.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you've been doing this for what, 3 years?
Well, only heavily like in the actual old records, like 8 months maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Dot, how many years you been doing genealogy?
Oh, 50?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Shelley, how many years you been doing genealogy?
Heavily, only about 2, but I've been doing it since I was in my 20s.
Same
And
with
Daphne
me.
and Catherine are probably the same way. So, I mean, so
Me
recognize,
too.
huh?
I said over 20 years really doing it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the issue is you're just starting out on your journey, and trust me, I did it wrong for 15 years. And one day I met the National Genealogical Society and all of a sudden got exposed to other people doing genealogy and realized I've been doing it wrong for 15 years. And I better learn how to do it right because I liked it so much. And that was
It
1985.
it
Okay.
is addicting, isn't it? It's really fun. I love it. And when I get into a book, 12 hours can go by, and if I find one record, it's just like, oh my god. But I don't know. I really enjoy it. It's just it's really hard to find data on this family. It's really, at least at this point in time. If we were affluent before, I don't know. or had lands before, but at this time,
I think you need to, I seriously think you need to back up 2 generations.
back to Nimrod Stover.
Back to Nimrod Stover and
Yeah.
work on Nimrod and learn everything you can about Nimrod and his siblings and put that to bed and have a firm foundation for you to be, because Nimrod's siblings can tell you things about their aunts and uncles and their parents, and that, and then build on that. And then once you have Nimrod's parents and assurances from all those siblings that's their parents, then build on who those people's siblings are. And then work your way up, because you're straight lining it.
I am. I'm going for the
Okay.
grand slam.
And that's the problem with straight lining it, is you're skipping all the people who can tell you anything about that family.
All the answers.
Right. So I would be looking on the Library of Virginia website for all the chancery suits that had anything to do with Nimrod and all of his siblings. Anytime Nimrod or one of his siblings was in a suit, I want to know about it. I want to know what land Nimrod and all of his siblings have.
I
And
know
then,
most of this.
but you haven't written it down. You have it inside your head.
Oh, no. I wrote a 17-page paper on him. I actually had a version 1, which was more of a maybe paper, until I found more factual data, and I made a version 2, which I abridged. I changed a
So
lot of
you
it.
know all the siblings of Nimrod?
There's one that's debatable that, let's see. I'm getting confused already when I'm not looking at everything. But yeah, I do know the siblings of Nimrod. I do. And I know where they went.
And you've collected all their land records?
The Jacob Stover, Greenwood. I haven't focused much on the Ohio when they move out of Hardy County. For the brother, Elijah, he just kind of disappears. I don't know where he goes. I can't find him. And then there's a few deeds with them involved. There's the Sarah and Peter Hartman. I found them in what's that religion? No, I can't remember the name of the religion, but I found them in church records. But I couldn't find anyone else. And then there's an Elizabeth, but I think the Elizabeth was raised by, this is another, I think the Elizabeth is actually Christian's daughter that was
Do
raised.
you see how deep your problem is? I mean, you're building on quicksand.
Yeah.
Okay, so my advice is to step back to Nimrod, because you know that you can connect to Nimrod.
Yes, for sure.
He's your no doubt, right? He's your great grandfather.
I will put my life on it.
Yeah. So he's your great grandfather. Is that what it is?
Fourth grade.
Fourth grade.
1803 to 1880. I'm 34. I'm about to be 35 soon.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say that would be my fourth great grandfather also, if it was 1803.
Yeah. Well,
my third great grandfather in my direct line doesn't die till 1851.
yeah. Okay, Nimrod Stover, 1803 to 1880. Jacob, he has a son, Jacob, dies in the Civil War. He's born 1830. He was 29
So
when he.
Then let's back it up, because
Yeah.
you don't know all of Nimrod's siblings. Back it up another generation to Jacob.
Okay, Jacob died. Third Battle of Winchester, 19 September.
But do you know all of Jacob's siblings?
Off the top of my head, let me think.
No. I'm talking about in your research materials. You know all of Jacob's siblings.
Nimrod's children. Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I know all that.
All right.
I just haven't looked at that in so long. I'm like.
Well, one of the best things that you can do after doing something for a while is to go back and start fresh
Yeah.
and look at it with new eyes, because you've learned so much more along the way that you can do a better job in analysis and correlation on old stuff. And I don't mean old in age, but stuff you got a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you could go back to Nimrod and do a reevaluation of what you know and work it back up. And it's sort of like when a stonemason comes in and rechinks the bricks,
Yeah.
because you haven't rechinked your bricks in a while.
Yeah. There is a son that I don't know what happened to him. My line, he was killed in the Civil War, and then that son was only 2. I think that's why there was no oral tradition passed down, because he died, and his child was only 2 years old. But and then the
That's
other,
why that's the very reason why you want to be in touch with that 2-year-old's aunts and uncles,
yeah,
because they know.
yeah, and they're going to be in Gilmer County. The Nimrod Stover Jr., he moves to Ohio, then the family migrates out towards Arizona. And then Job, I'm thinking was a stillborn because I've seen no records of him.
Okay, what did I ask you to research?
Nimrod's siblings.
No,
And
Occam's, no, the tool, Occam's razor.
how did you spell? I was going to ask how to spell that.
How do you spell it?
OCKHAM.
OCCAM.
OCC.
Occam's razor. Here we go.
Occam's razor. Because here, you just made an assumption about a child being stillborn because you couldn't find any records.
Yeah. Well,
They could have died. They could have been born in a year that ended in 1, and died in a year that ended in 9, and lived 9 years, but you couldn't find them on either census.
that's true.
And that's not the same thing as stillborn.
Yeah, I know stillborn is when you die immediately, but I think what I meant by that more was died as a child. But
Well,
I just used the word stillborn and probably out of context. But
well, I'm just saying, because you can't find records is not a reason to assume that they're dead.
yeah, I've learned I've learned that too.
Well, wait, you can assume that they're dead now.
Well, it's only been 200 years.
But I'm talking about in the time frame that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I
because
think
I
there
know
would be a good idea.
situations where a child is not in the census because they are in fact living with an aunt or uncle, and in another year they're living with a different aunt and uncle. They have the same surname when it's an uncle, and you think it's part of that family when it's not part of that family at all. They're just caring for that kid because the other family can't care for him. And the only way that you figure that out is through death certificates and what other people in the family tell you about it in other records. So I've got a situation where this isn't quite exactly the same thing, but I have a family that consists of a woman named Mary, a woman named Elizabeth, and a son named Augustus, Gustav. Their last name is Parsons.
Okay.
And their father, Woodson Parson, dies in 1792.
Okay.
The only problem is Augustus Gustav is born in 1794.
Well,
So
at that
what
time,
happens is, Woodson has died and his wife has gotten everything, right?
okay. Yes.
Woodson wife dies, And Gustav says he's entitled to 1/3 of the estate. And the two girls say, au contraire, you're our stepbrother. We are entitled to, each of us are entitled to the estate of our father that our mother got. And you are entitled to 1/3 of our mother's estate, not received from our father. And they go to court in Virginia.
Hmm.
Now, I will tell you that I have researched that family for 30 years. And until I read that court case, I did not know that my fifth great grandmother, Mary Parsons Toller Cameron, had a sister named Elizabeth Parsons Taliaferro or Tolliver. And there's a Confederate camp, Sons of Confederate Veterans out there in Missouri, that says that Gustav Parsons, who's the father of Mosby Monroe Parsons, a major general of Confederate troops from Missouri, is the son of the Revolutionary War soldier Woodson Parsons, and that's what their website says. But Woodson Parsons died 2 years before Gustav was born. They're not going to change it.
Yeah. Well, the guy that I work with, I think he intends on changing the site because he knows the information's inaccurate now that, but I don't think he wants to crack his what do you call it? He doesn't want to look stupid. You know what I mean? By changing something every so. But I mean, obviously,
my
what's on the
ancestry
site.
tree is called, my ancestry tree is called a speculative tree, so I can change it anytime I want.
Exactly, that's how I feel.
But the point is, you have to, those 17-page missiles that you write, you have to
Yeah.
keep writing those, and then you provide him with that as proof of your suppositions, as proof of the changes that he needs to make, and have him read it and see if he agrees with you.
He seems to agree. We
Seem
discussed it.
to agree is not agree.
Seems to agree is not agree. Yeah, if he agreed, he would change it.
Seems to agree is being
Yeah.
polite.
Yeah. Well, he's working on it just as well as I am, so he does know it's wrong. He acknowledges that it's wrong, but I think he wants the full story before, which may never come out. I don't know.
I don't know. Dot, have you got a full story yet?
Yeah, give me a boat. Back to the boat is the full story for the Stover line. You know that. I'm just trying to get back to the boat. Once
Well,
I get
your
into
Stover,
foreign language or
I
old
would
English,
think your Stovers probably came out of Germany to Pennsylvania, started
yeah,
out in Berks or Montgomery County,
Burke,
Pennsylvania,
yeah,
wandered down the old wagon road to Shenandoah, out down the Philadelphia road, and then when Shenandoah got too crowded for them, they headed for Hardy.
yeah. Well,
I mean,
Christian shows up by himself in Hardy, and I think that Henry gets PO'd at him and goes south. That's my my hypothesis right now.
but
Because
you've got no, but you have
I have
no
nothing to
data
prove it. Nothing to prove
to
it. Nothing to prove it.
substantiate what you just said.
I have not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
But you're demonstrating bias right now.
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
Okay, so you will
You are
find
right.
things that fit your narrative.
Yeah, but I am
And the
open to
problem
any
with,
narrative.
and the problem with that is exactly what's going on with your friend who's researching with you. You're not in agreement.
Mm.
So anyway, we have spent a good bit of time with you,
I'm on
Alice,
this.
today.
Well,
And I'm
thanks.
sure we'll
Thanks
spend a
for.
good bit of time with you in the future, but but there are things you have to do to get your addiction under control.
I think there are worse things to be addicted to. I could say
No,
that.
no, 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 no. That's not the part we're talking about. That's
Oh.
not, it's the sub addiction you have to keep finding records and creating hypotheses for
Yeah.
why things happen.
All John Smiths are the same.
But the point, one of the secrets of all this is you let the records talk to you and you let the records say what the hypothesis should be.
Yeah.
And because you're not correlating your records necessarily together, you usually are dealing with them in isolation. They don't tell you enough. You need 2 or more records to tell you.
I
Not
mean,
just
how do you? One more thing, as I don't want to hog all the time, but okay, like the only reason why I really like this Henry is because, and even after what you found for me in Shenandoah on the 1787, it says my son Christian can't take care of himself. My son Henry can't take care of himself. Now, I take that he gives all the land to John, the brother, and says the other 2 kids are out of the will, basically. And then all of a sudden, they're living together in Shenandoah, and then Henry leaves this in his will, and then we have this. There's no other Christians in uh, Virginia in 1787 besides the Strasburg one, and all of a sudden we have this poor Christian that keeps going to court because he's threatened to get his kids taken away, and it seems to match up. It's like every little piece seems to match up. And then when I found the daughter, that Elizabeth that I was debating was Jacob or Christian's daughter, on her obituary, it's actually her name is labeled as Stofer, but on the death certificate of her son, it's Ver. And it was
one,
the first time I had ever seen Fer outside of Franklin County, Virginia, unless it was in like a very, very early PA tax list.
once you've been doing this for a while, you will recognize that the spelling of surnames means
Doesn't
absolutely nothing.
Jack? Nothing.
Yeah. Nothing.
Okay.
Does anybody have
Also,
anything else?
I don't want to hog your guys' time. Sorry about that.
Well, I mean,
um,
this was good for all of us.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
agree.
because all of us were reminded of how we used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna go back and watch it and probably look at myself and laugh, but
I
so
mean,
I could
things I said today, I could
absorb.
create 7 or 8 videos about, right, Daphne?
You definitely have a lot of knowledge. I will. You definitely.
I have a question, and hopefully this will be quick. Back when you were collecting all the Scots, well, that many years ago, I'd never heard of one name studies either, but I would never do such a thing. But what's your opinion on one name studies?
I think one name studies are great, but they're not necessarily, they're not, um,
They're
I
not
have a one,
research.
I'm the president of the Association of One Name Studies, a defunct 501c organization, because surname genealogists have no time to volunteer for anything other than all they want to do is work on their own surname stuff. And I can appreciate that because I wanted to work on my own surname stuff. So I have, a rather large database and 5-drawer file cabinets of Scott information that deals with, Scots that I just collected and put together, and people help me do that. So what it's good for is clues. As long as you accept it, it depends on how they cited their information. Like, as long as you know where they got the information from, it's okay. It just means they did a little bit of research for you. But if it doesn't have a citation, it doesn't mean anything. So everything in the Scott One Name Study, every record has a citation. Sometimes that citation is a letter from someone. So it's not really a fantastic kind of record because I don't know where they got the information from, but they told it to me in a letter. So there are some like that, but that's like, remember the old IGI?
Yep.
and uh, the microfiche. And so when we looked at it, we knew that if it was from a microfilming of a record set, it was great. But if it was from a family group sheet that had been submitted, it wasn't.
Right.
And they were all together. They were all in the same database. So you had to evaluate the source to see what the probability was that the information would be correct or not.
Because you knew if it was an extracted record, it had been checked by a couple of people,
Right.
and it actually
Exactly.
came from
Sure.
county record or something like that.
That wouldn't prevent you from going and looking for the original record, but you would know in the index that there was a good chance that that record from an extracted source was a good one, whereas something that was on a family group sheet as part of a temple submission probably wasn't a good one.
Right.
Did you see that record I found with the double? They looked like they were both originals, but they said two different names. Did you see that one? That blew my
Well,
mind.
I don't know. Because you're dealing with microfilm, you're not really dealing with original records because you can't see the color, you can't see the nuance of the record. So they, you just don't know.
I thank God I found the duplicate, so
Right.
I didn't run down a
But you
rabbit
don't know
hole.
which one is the copy.
That's what I don't.
So you have to, so the first thing you do with those two is figure out which one's the original and which one's the derivative. Because my assumption is they both say the same thing except for that one name. So, it just means the clerk properly miscopied it, but you don't know which one is the one he copied from.
Well, one person had really horrid handwriting and was in a hurry, and the other person had really beautiful handwriting. So,
Well, then the one with the beautiful handwriting is likely, I'm just saying likely to be the derivative. And what you have is you have a waste book and you have a minute book or something like that. So the person doing the quick writing, that's just the waste book.
I look at censuses like that. If they're beautiful handwriting, they're the copy.
Yeah. I mean, because of course you may never find the original.
Well, sometimes I have, and it's been chicken scratching.
Right. Anybody else? All right, then I'm going to call it the end of the day. And we'll see you next month, if not sooner.
good luck
See you
on your
Saturday.
search.
Well, I'm leaving for Memphis either tonight or tomorrow morning.
I'm signed up for Saturday, so
Okay. And Catherine's going to be there. So,
I'm doing it virtually.
Yeah, I would think so. I live about 2 miles from where he'll be.
And you don't know how frustrating that must be for them to have as few people who are actually signed up to do it in person,
Because they'd rather do it virtually.
who would rather do. So people that live 2 miles away are doing it virtually.
Well, they said it changed them, saved them the rental on the big church.
Yeah, well,
You won't believe how small the room is we're going to be in.
actually, I have an idea because I've seen the building.
Well, it isn't the whole building. Half of that, or 3/4 of it, is the library, and the back room is where we'll be.
Right. So it'll be interesting. It
It'll be
always is.
cozy.
But I've got a 12-hour trip ahead of me tomorrow. The airplane flight was just so expensive.
Mm.
Um,
Haven't got your van ready.
and my van's not ready. See, the original plan was to have my van be ready.
Yeah, I
But
wanted to see it.
well, I'm probably gonna do a tour pretty soon. The van, the layout for the van The permanent layout of the van was taken care of day before yesterday. I reorganized, I must have reorganized it 20 times before I finally got it down exactly the way I want it. So now I have it exactly the way I want it. So now I can start putting it together and getting everything tied together and getting it to work. So, all right. I guess I will see you all.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
your
all.
time,
Good
everyone.
travels.
Okay, bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good trip.
I will. Bye-bye.
Safe trip.
Glad you stayed. How you doing?